Hello my fellow oddities and welcome to a new video. On Saturday, I went through each Mortal Kombat movie and chose the best scene out of a selection of nominees. Today, I'll be going through the worst scene in every Mortal Kombat movie. Let's dive right in. Starting with 1995, this is probably the hardest one to pick out of all the movies we have to cover today because it really doesn't have any scenes that stick out as being particularly bad compared to the other movies which have at least one that stick out like a sore thumb. The first thing that comes to mind are the scenes with CGI Reptile. Not only is the CGI itself really bad, like there were video games out at the time that looked better than this, but the design itself for Reptile is horrendous. Why is he such a neon green? Why is there so much red? Why are his eyes normal and not reptilian? The scene where Liu Kang fights Kitana is also pretty bad. I've never really liked the way Kitana was portrayed in these movies, and the choreography here is notably way worse than the rest of the movie. Though to be fair, it wasn't really meant to be a high-intensity battle like the rest of the fights. Same kind of goes for Kano vs. Sonya. The fight is kind of slow and feels very, okay, we're gonna do this, then we're gonna do that, then we're gonna go back to doing this. It's like the characters are making agreements in what they're going to do. But that scene has Trevor Goddard as Kano in one of his only scenes of the movie, so I don't think I can pick it. For my final pick, I think I'm going to let my bias shine through, and I'm going to go with Bi-Han's death scene where Sub-Zero, who by the way has no lines of dialogue in this movie, is killed with a bucket of water. It's an unceremonious end to one of the worst versions of Bi-Han, and I also feel Bi-Han being killed by anyone other than Scorpion is just wrong. They really butchered the rivalry in these movies. Next up, we have Annihilation, and boy, do we have options here. I honestly feel like I could pick any scene from this movie out of Kung Lao's hat, and whichever one I pick would probably be acceptable to be in this spot. First thing I can think of, Find Your Animality, the scene with Nightwolf where Liu Kang has to go through 3 trials, but only goes through 1. Okay. But at first it's this weird dream-like scene where he's having these visions of Shao Kahn, and this is Annihilation Shao Kahn, so instead of a dream, it's more like a nightmare. Then he wakes up with Jade. It was just very strange, and I don't think they knew what they were doing with this scene. Another bad scene is the one where Mortal Raiden fights off the team of reptiles. The choreography here is astonishing. Astonishing in how unbelievably silly it all looks. They literally spin around just like ballerinas. I'm not even joking. Just like ballerinas. And also, why is there a team of reptiles? The mud fight between Melina and Sonya is also fairly terrible, plus that terrible CGI Monster Jax fight. That was atrocious. Also, that scene where all the characters go into these giant balls that roll around to where they need to go. Why? Why is this just why? Who wanted this? Who came up with this? I don't understand. The whole opening from Johnny dying to the constant front flips to this shot of Shao Kahn, it's definitely bad. But my pick for the worst scene of the movie is the final battle. This whole sequence is like a fever dream. There is no movie where a shot that looks like this should exist. And then the fight between Dragon Liu Kang and Hydra Shao Kahn. Someone approved this. Someone was like, yes, this is good. I like this. This will satisfy the fans and make them roar and go crazy in theaters. Well, they were kinda right, but for all the wrong reasons. And then the Elder Gods show up and take Shinnok to the Phantom Zone, cause more bad CGI is exactly what we needed. The Mortal Kombat theme don't even hit the same in this one. But next up we have Scorpion's Revenge, and alongside 1995, this is the hardest one to pick. Not because it's as good as 1995, it's not. It's just that this movie's problems are a bit more structural with what characters and what plot lines get more screen time compared to them just having really bad moments and scenes. But I think I have 2 ideas for this one. Firstly, Johnny fighting Baraka at the beginning. Now, don't say the director confirmed that it wasn't actually Baraka, and that's why he's in Battle of the Realms. No, it was always supposed to be Baraka. It's just that they needed another jobber for the sequel, and so they brought him back and said that it was never him. This one's actually him, and then just killed him off again. But this fight is very disrespectful to Baraka. Man was losing to a guy who wasn't even trying to fight him, who thought he wasn't even real, and literally had his guard completely down. And then the building just collapses and he dies. But the scene I will go with, like I said, there aren't a whole lot of nominees to talk about. There are just not that many horrible scenes in this movie. But I have to go with Liu Kang getting absolutely whooped by Goro. This just diminishes Liu Kang's entire character so much. To see him get bodied, not even competitive in the slightest, he just gets bodied and bodied and bodied. And we're thinking, oh, he's eventually gonna fight through the adversity and rise to defeat Goro. But no, he doesn't. Scorpion shows up and he's the one that saves the day. Cause I don't know, maybe they thought he hadn't already done enough and the movie that's named after him has him on the poster where he does most of the cool things. They just had to have Scorpion be the center of attention, so Goro gets one-shotted and then Liu wins by forfeit. How is that narratively satisfying? How do you walk away from seeing this movie and go, yeah, that's how I want my Mortal Kombat movie to go. Apparently 90% of people. What do I know? Next film, Mortal Kombat 2021. Now, despite this being my favorite of the Mortal Kombat movies, I do have to admit it has quite a few very, very bad scenes, mostly involving everyone's favorite, Mary Sue OC in an R-rated video game movie adaptation. Oh wait, he's not even that. The scene where he's in an MMA fight, the scene where he leaves his family, the scene where Kano tries to get him to unlock his power. Actually, I quite like that one. But there are also some very bad scenes that don't involve him as well, such as Kung Lao's death. Now, I'm not just putting this here because I love Kung Lao and I don't want to see him die for the 100th time, but also everything leading up to his death makes no sense and is very contrived. Firstly, Raiden teleports Cole Young to the temple, only to teleport him away moments later, but it gets interrupted by Sub-Zero. Raiden then summons Kung Lao to save Cole's dumb... Oh wait, I just realized this also involves Cole Young. Kung Lao is then force-pulled by Shang Tsung, I guess he can just do that, and then gets his soul sucked. Which means Raiden directly got Kung Lao killed, because if he didn't summon Cole Young, just to unsummon him moments later to get interrupted by Sub-Zero, then he wouldn't have had to summon Kung Lao to save Cole Young from Sub-Zero, meaning Kung Lao doesn't die. But Raiden did do that, so he does die, which means Raiden got Kung Lao killed. Liu then makes his way over to Kung Lao, only to stare at him doing nothing. Oh yeah, and Cole also stands there doing nothing either, only to hold back Liu Kang when he does make an attempt to help. Thanks, Cole. I think this could have been handled better if they made it seem like Liu wanted to help, but perhaps fear of having the same fate prevented him from helping. But they didn't really make it seem like that. Think of the scene in the first It movie where Mike is seeing the people burning behind the iron door and his hands are out and he's walking forward but then kind of stepping back like he's hesitating whether he wants to help out or not. Another very bad scene from this movie is the scene right after this in The Void. Firstly, this area seems like a very useful place, yet it is not used before nor after this moment, which is kind of a deus ex machina. There's also a line here where Raiden claims he is an elder god that cannot get involved, and that's why he let Kung Lao die, but he's the one that got Kung Lao killed, so clearly he can get involved, and also Raiden isn't an elder god, at least not until MK4. Also, Cole Young talking? Bad. Also, how do Jax or Cole know the names of Cabal, Reiko, or Melina? Hell, I don't even think the audience knows who those characters' names are. So how do they know? But the worst scene of the movie, you guys know it, is Goro's death at the hands of Cole Young. Just horrible. Everything about it. And you know what makes it worse? It's that Goro is actually portrayed very well in this movie. Good design, not bad CGI, good voice, intimidating, his fight style is great, but then he just dies because of the good old power of literal plot armor. Darn. Next up, we have Battle of the Realms. This should be fun. Now, there aren't a lot of specific nominees here, not because the movie isn't horrible. it is, but because the whole thing is so consistently horrible that there are very few scenes that stand out as more horrible than the rest of it. But that doesn't mean there aren't any. Firstly, Devora versus Johnny Cage. Now, at least Devora doesn't kill him, but she still absolutely embarrasses another Mortal Kombat classic OG character. Why? What is it that NRS loves so much about this character? We don't like her. Why won't they understand us? Another really bad scene, Kung Lao's death. Now, I'm not just putting this here because I love Kung Lao and I don't want to see him die for the 100th. Hold on a minute. But why did they have to make his death so brutal? He's doing well against Shao, and then Shao just uses his own hat to cut his chest, and then he splits him in half a la MK9, and we see Kung Lao's split body on the floor with his eyes still twitching and moving. Remember when I said in the last videos that these Legends movies cross a line when it comes to gore? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Another bad scene is Raiden's death, again, needlessly brutal, and it also reminds me of Annihilation, which you should never do if you're a Mortal Kombat movie. But speaking of reminding me of Annihilation, the pick I'm going with here is that final battle. Whew, the one where Fire God Liu Kang transforms into a dragon to fight corrupted Shinnok, who is also the One Being apparently. This is a Mortal Kombat 2 adaptation, by the way. This scene makes absolutely no sense, and they don't have the time to even slightly do what they're going for justice, and what they're going for is already terrible. The One Being cannot be fought. Once the One Being is the One Being, it's done. Everything is over. All the realms don't exist. Everyone is erased from existence. All that's left is him. That's why he's called the One Being. But no, you just have all the characters running around through destroyed city streets, taking on Tarkatans and stuff, and then Sub-Zero and Scorpion show up to save the day, Sub-Zero riding around on ice like he's Iceman from Marvel. I feel like the writer of this movie got bored and handed off the script to their 9-year-old child. Next movie is Snowblind, and even though I'm not a huge fan, there aren't any scenes that stick out as particularly horrible. The whole thing is just kinda not my jam, but that doesn't mean any of it is really bad. But there are some things I take issue with, like Sub-Zero just kinda allowing himself to get embarrassed, beat up, and robbed by Black Dragon. That kind of hurt to watch. I also hate, and I mean hate, the scene where it's revealed that Sub-Zero, in order to get rid of the Revenants, even though they're clearly just zombies, just kills everyone. All the Revenants, but also his fellow allies and innocent people. I know I've preached that Kuai Liang should be a little bit more edgy like Bi-Han, but I am absolutely not okay with him just casually killing innocent people. That's something I would be on edge for, even about Bi-Han. But the worst scene in the movie is undoubtedly the one near the end where it's revealed that Kano is in charge of Kronika's Hourglass, thus technically making the Legends movies canon, and bringing in the mess that is Titans into this already messing and confusing universe of MK animated movies. They just had to do it, didn't they? You can't just let this Kronika stuff die and not touch the rest of the franchise. It just has to stick around and ruin the media that isn't even the games. Love it. Last one we have to cover, Cage Match. There's really only one option here, partly because I really hate it, and also partly because I haven't seen this movie since it came out, so I don't remember any scenes I particularly didn't like other than this one. I'm going with the scene where it's revealed that Jennifer Grey, the actress, the actual Jennifer Grey, she even voices the character, is actually Serena in disguise. And not just that, that would be very weird, but not horrible, but Serena is just straight up evil and is trying to bring back Shinnok. No, that is not my amazing goth girlfriend. What did you guys do with her? But seriously, what part of Serena's story made them think that this is something she'd ever do? They should have had her role be Quan Chi's. Of course, minus the Jennifer Grey stuff. Not sure that would work as well. Though, technically, Quan Chi can shapeshift in the Legends movies universe, so... And then Serena could have maybe had a role where she's like a secret informant or something on the inside, secretly working for Ashra or something. But her being the main villain of the movie, basically? No. Bad movie. Bad! Oh god. I think I might have hurt my camera, guys. Let's not do that again. But that'll do it for today's video. You guys let me know in the comments below what the worst scene in each of these movies is for you. And while you're down there, make sure to check out the links in the description to my merch store, Twitter, and Instagram. Also, make sure to give this video a like to show your support, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to know when I next upload a new video. And with that being said, that's it for this video, my fellow oddities. I'll see you next time.